This is John Gilroy here. Everyone's asking about artificial intelligence. Is it a coder's dream or a coder's nightmare? Bob Stevens has all the answers.
Welcome to the Federal Tech Podcast, where industry leaders share insights on innovation with a focus on reducing cost and improving security for federal technology. If you like the Federal Tech Podcast, please support us by giving us a rating and review on Apple Podcast.
Welcome to the Federal Tech Podcast. My name is John Gilroy, and I will be your moderator. Our guest today is Bob Stevens, Vice President, Public Sector at GitLab. I did that introduction because Bob Stevens does have all the answers, especially when it comes to artificial intelligence and software development. And that's the focus of the discussion today. We're going to talk about a report that's come out from GitLab. It's called The State of AI in Software Development. So, Bob, this is quite a report you folks have, isn't it?
It is, yes, fantastic. We had a lot of participants, very diverse set of participants, and got a lot of great feedback.
What I like about it is that, everyone thinks about ChatGPT and someone writing your homework or no. That's fine. That's baby stuff. This is the real stuff that can save companies money. It can help agencies achieve their goals. And I think it goes through it very, very methodically. It surveyed like 1,000 people or something, didn't it?
Yeah. So a little over 1,000 people. Yes, you are correct.
So I just want to do this right at the top of the show. If you're interested in software development lifecycle, and how AI can help you, you can go to gitlab.com/developer-survey/ and download it. And I did this morning, and I'm carrying it around with me. All kinds of stuff. Let's jump right in here. Artificial intelligence has been around for a while, Bob. It's not brand new. You go to Google Trends and see a long trend for artificial intelligence. So why, in the last 18 months, 2 years, why is everyone jumping in AI for software?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that, there's been a couple of advances in the market, some companies that have really progressed, and GitLab being one of them, and we're offering them, developers the opportunity to use the technology to really make their, as you said earlier, their lives a bit easier, and to help ensure that while their lives are easier, things are more secure as well. Anytime you can save a developer time, it's something that they're going to focus on and try and accomplish.
All kinds of statistics in this report. I'm going to throw a few out at you. You can reflect on it and maybe expand on it a little bit. 67% of software developers are planning to use AI in software development. Seems like a low number, huh? 67%? Good number, you think?
I think it's a good number. Yeah, it's not that surprising. If we look at, the federal space, they're going to be a little more hesitant to use AI right now. I think that there's a lot of questions or unanswered questions that they have. Like, as an example, the large language model, where does that exist? Is it in the cloud? And are government agencies going to be okay moving their data into that model? Or are they going to look to try and move the model to, on-prem? And if it's on-prem, whose model are they using? Are they using the companies, or are they using their own, or a combination of both? And, what's the biggest bang for the buck? And honestly, right now, I think that, because there's been a huge focus on just, code development. So, allowing a developer to use the tool to help write code. I don't know that that's really efficient enough for the government to, so that it's cost effective, right? There has to be a lot more to it for, government agencies to really embrace and use it on a large scale.
When I was a young man, they were called coders, and I got a little bit older, they became software developers. And if you read this survey, what it says is that 75% of what they call software developers focus on tasks other than writing code. Well, wait a minute, I thought they were code. Well, no, there's a whole lot more going on than just writing code, isn't there?
There is, yes. I mean, there's, just if you look at the software development lifecycle, I mean, there's 10 phases to it. And so writing code is one part of it. And that's what I was alluding to when I said, is it going to be cost effective for, federal agencies to just take advantage of code development? I think that, they've got to look at other aspects of AI. As an example, we know in the government, there's legacy code that's been around for decades, and it's not likely to go anywhere anytime soon. Well, you get a new developer in who's not familiar with the language that it was written in. You could potentially use AI to help that developer understand what a certain part of the code is trying to accomplish, so that they don't have to spend hours or days or maybe even weeks trying to determine themselves, because it's written in a language that they're not used to. So that's one example of I think where the government agencies will want to go so that they can get the return on the investment.
If you read this report, it looks like there's different categorizations for AI, when they use it and when they don't use it. I think the report said that groups of developers use AI to check code. They use AI to review code, but they use bots for testing. So does a bot come under the general heading of artificial intelligence, or is that a different category?
I think it's a different category, and it's that you just brought up another opportunity for AI to be used, in the testing of code that's been written. So, I mean, there's a lot, testing for you and I, it sounds easy, but there's a lot to it. And so if you can use artificial intelligence to determine what tests need to occur and who the reviewers need to be, and things like that, then you could potentially speed up, the whole testing process as well through the use of AI.
He's though someone who worked in Chicago and worked in advertising, and what she would do is they would come up with little models of products, and that's a whole business, a model of product, and they try to figure out where it fit in the shelf and everything else. And so I think one application for AI in the federal government is proof of concept. Say, well, what about this? What about that? I think artificial intelligence might allow a developer to come up with something that they can say, well, your idea, Bob, well, here's what it'll look like, and all of a sudden it gives you possibilities, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. And I mean, you said this early on, the government's been using AI for various things for a long time. Just as an example, DREN, Defense Research and Engineering Network, they do simulations. And there's a lot of collaboration between universities. And so, AI has existed there for a long time. Another agency, U.S. Patent and Trade Office, they've got, tens of thousands of lawyers, and they've got to, analyze a lot of cases and try and figure out, are patents, overlapping. And so I know that they've been using AI for a long time to try and weed through that without having to do it, manually. So there's a bunch of different uses in the government. Code development's kind of, it's the next great thing for the use of AI.
And just some basic like version control. If you look at the last 4 years, we had everyone in the office, then everyone was home, and then partially back in the office. But I would think that artificial intelligence can be applied just to the whole world of version control, because hybrid cloud, public cloud, private cloud, computing at the edge, it's got to be so complicated now. There's got to be one source of truth, or one source of just this revision level.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, you're bringing up another example of, a process or a piece of the software development lifecycle. Software versioning is very important. And so, it's another opportunity for the use of AI across, all 10 phases of the lifecycle, and not just focus on one. As I said earlier, right now, the focus seems to be just mostly on code development, but I think it's got to grow, well beyond that. Here's another example for you is vulnerability. You use AI to find a vulnerability in the code, and AI can explain to you what that vulnerability really is, the risk profile for that vulnerability, and how to potentially fix it. So, it's another great use case for, the software development lifecycle and the use of AI.
I've done a lot of podcasts, and I listen to a lot of podcasts. And a lot of times when I speak to software developers, and they'll just toss out these terms, CI/CD, blah, 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 blah. And then if it's to a podcast about software development, they'll just throw in more terms. CI/CD, API, blah, blah, blah. CI/CD, the CI/CD, the CI/CD. I thought CI/CD was maybe a federal agency or something, but it's a term that software developers use all the time. And I think this is a great target for artificial intelligence to help in continuous integration and continuous deployment, because talk about vulnerabilities. There's new vulnerabilities found every day, attacks every day, and automation is difficult. All of a sudden, we have the tool that allow us to automate, I would think.
You're spot on. If you think about it, GitLab was, gave customers or government agencies the ability to go from months or even a year in their software development processes to as little as minutes. So, AI could potentially even take it down to seconds because, it'll just provide a tool that allows that developer to be much more efficient and to really increase what we call the speed to mission.
Our focus today is on a GitLab report. 2023 Global DevSecOps Report is called The State of AI in Software Development, and I will put the link in the show notes page. If you read this report on page 15, they talk about the stumbling blocks to using AI, security, privacy, and IP. And you touched on IP earlier. And so are these the main ones? And what are the concerns that people have, especially in the federal government?
You know what? Security folks are concerned.
You better believe it.
And I think their concern is generally around the fact that they believe that it's going to cause a lot more work for them. While in theory, AI is supposed to be reducing the workload. And I know that there's, concern about, AI generating code that they've never seen before. And, did that code represent or introduce some sort of vulnerability or a 0-day? So probably worst case scenario. And so the security folks, I think, are really it's going to take a little bit more time to get security on board. I think we'll get there, over time. But they definitely have a concern right now.
In the early days of word processors, many years ago, there are all kinds of word processors. And over the years, they kind of funneled into something called Microsoft Word. And today we see all kinds of tools involved in artificial intelligence. And according to your survey here, 57% of respondents use 6 or more tools. Now, I would think that just figuring out what kind of tools to use, this would be a difficult challenge in and of itself.
Well, yeah, it is. And 6 is a low number. I can tell you. I was talking to a customer recently, and I asked them to list the number of security products that they use, security scanners that they use. And when they got to 15, I said, okay, we can stop now.
No mas. Really?
Yeah. It's it's really, the evolution of DevSecOps is, towards a platform, right? And a platform that allows you to integrate, some number of tools that you believe you need to accomplish what your task, security being one of them. It also, the platform allows for a visibility across the entire, this is one of the things I think is really beneficial to the government, right? They lose visibility a lot because they outsource a lot. So using a platform that everyone understands and has access to really helps provide them with the visibility required to ensure that, the work is moving at the pace that they need it to and accomplishing the mission at the end of the day.
And I think that's the message for the interview today is that, GitLab is not just a code repository. It is a tool to help you accomplish your agency goals in an efficient manner and manage code, whether it's with artificial intelligence or not. But pretty sure it's going to be pretty soon mostly managed with artificial intelligence.
Like I said earlier, they still have some unanswered questions, right, in regard to how to take or make appropriate use of the model. There'll be some fast starters out there. There's a few agencies that already, always are, like, the Department of Energy or NASA or other organizations like that. But, DoD's got a lot more to consider. It's the cost of, potentially doing something on-prem or in their hybrid cloud. The risk associated with sending data to, a language model that's outside of their infrastructure and, who has access to all that data. So I think there's still a lot of unanswered questions that the government has. And I think they're rightfully taking a little bit more time in regard to AI and the use of AI.
I was just looking at the stumbling blocks. I was thinking about yesterday. My wife and I got together with some friends, and one of our friends is a woman who has a PhD in math, and she's working for a company in town here. And this is like a woman with this huge, big brain, and most of her time is spent with interacting with people and trying to get information from people. Just allow her to use the brain. I'm thinking that with artificial intelligence, the stumbling block maybe just in setting up the blocks in order to use the power there. It's comes down to humans. And I never thought that would be the case, but I think if I understand how humans work, maybe that's one of the stumbling blocks too, is just getting people trained, understanding the skills involved, and deploying those skills to use all this power we have. There's a federal guy I heard, he said, artificial intelligence is like having the best bike in town and not being able to ride it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you're right. And I think in the survey, I think there's a number. There's like 81% said that they need more training when it comes to AI before they be comfortable using it. So that's a pretty significant.
Winner, chicken dinner. That's the exact number from the survey. Yeah, 81% need more training. So you can be a high school kid or a PhD in math. Guess what? Need more training.
Yeah, the last thing that anyone wants or needs is to not use it appropriately. Right. That's just of course, that's where we talked about the security folks, right? That would be their worst nightmare. So
where do you see it all headed? I mean, is it okay? Nightmare scenario. Everyone loses their job because I don't. So where do you see it happen? You think that someone's going to come up with training for these people? Is it going to stall? So where do you see the next 4 or 5 years for this, Bob?
Oh, no, I don't think it's going to stall. I think the momentum will continue to increase. There's no doubt about that. I think we can count on the government to put together some regulation to help guide for sure. I know that, DHS has a strong focus on it. I know the White House has a strong focus on it. And it's not to control it. I don't think that that's what they want to do at all. I think that they want to figure out how to properly use it in order to take advantage of all the benefits that AI has to offer.
I think it's like the bicycle analogy. They know they have the bicycle here, but they have to figure out exactly how to use it. There's just the pace of change in the last 18 months. It's almost out of control where everyone seems to have an answer. In fact, there was an article in the Washington Post this morning about all the so-called AI experts up on Capitol Hill opining about where AI fits in the federal government. But they got people like you doing the nuts and bolts, work in the trenches, helping people, get the code out on time and maintain the code. And that's something no one ever talks about. Yeah, AI can create this and create that. Oh, what about maintaining the code? That's part of the CD, isn't it? That's maintaining it.
That's right. Yeah, you always have to be careful of vendor hype, right? And there may be a little bit of that going on right now. And that's why, GitLab is being very thoughtful in the way that we're implementing and the solution that we're trying to provide. Again, it's not just one aspect of the software development lifecycle. It's all phases of it, because that's where the developer is really going to save some time. You mentioned it earlier, 75% of their time is spent on something other than coding, right? Yeah. So that means it's the other 9 phases. And so that's a large part of our focus, is to ensure that they can recoup a bunch of time in all aspects of the software development lifecycle.
So, Bob, before the interview began, I asked what kind of events you're going to attend in 2024. So if someone's listening to this and there's snow on the ground and maybe an event coming up, what kind of events does your company attend here in town for my govies, for my federal listeners?
Sure. Yeah. So we go to the AWS event every year. It's a fantastic event downtown. I think you mentioned you reminded me there's over 10,000 attendees at the last one. It's a fantastic event. DISA puts on a really nice event every year. And so we'll participate in that. And then there's a Gartner conference in June, typically in June, that we also attend. Because that brings in a variety of different customers versus focusing on just one area or vertical.
I think when I deal with companies and they have a strong commercial presence, they go, no. My govies love that. They love to hear that. They love to hear about Morgan Stanley. They love to hear about Morgan Stanley paying a $23 million fine for some errors in data storage. They love hearing that because I guess they're expected to be perfect or something. I worked for the DoD, therefore I was born with perfect genes. Humans in banks, big banks, make mistakes, and I think you could learn from that. And I love the interaction of commercial folks and govies and going back and forth and trying to understand how to do this. So if you are interested in this report, you can go and type. I just typed in the state of AI in software development. It takes you to the GitLab page. We have to wind up this interview here, unfortunately. You have been listening to the Federal Tech Podcast with John Gilroy. I'd like to thank my guest, Bob Stevens, VP Public Sector at GitLab.
Thanks for listening to the Federal Tech Podcast. If you like the Federal Tech Podcast, please support us by giving us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts.